personally invite you to lend your voices to this radio talk show to express your opinions on my weekly topics. This is social network radio at its finest. Now here's the number for you to call in to be a part of the discussion. Call 347-884-9839. Once again, that number to call is 347-884-9839. This week's topic, oh my goodness, we have stuff happening all across the country. The topic is policing and the American criminal justice system. A system in need of a major overhaul. Real solutions from inside and outside the system. Oh boy, we got lots to talk about with that one. My show is the new Underground Railroad Express. Next stop is your neighborhood. All aboard to freedom and to freedom land. But before we get started, a little bit of history so we can kind of put it all into context and really connect the dots. Here's the history. It's short, it's brief, but it's really important to remember and know, especially if you didn't know this piece of history. The date, it's Wednesday. It's September the 1st. It's 1875. You see, on this date, in 1875, white Democrats attacked Republicans at Yazoo City, Mississippi. That's right. The riot happened because of the pressure on white supremacy in the aftermath of the Civil War. Southern defeat and Reconstruction gave blacks more freedom, and nearly all whites resented the change. The result of the attack was 1 white and 3 blacks killed. That's the history, folks. They don't tell you this, but this is a piece of history you need to know because it's not an anomaly. This attack of white riots and racism against the black African American community has been going on for almost 3 centuries. This is just one of those days right after the Civil War. Anyway, I want to hear from you. Now let's connect the dots and make sense out of it all. Let's talk. Call me. 347-884-9839. Well, tonight I have a very special guest that's joining us as a featured call-in guest. Joining me in the GoPro studios is a dear friend this evening. It's Faye Coffield. She is a human rights activist based in the metro Atlanta, Georgia area. She is the owner, operator of Faye Coffield Investigation, a private investigation and security agency. She is also the retired City of Atlanta police sergeant. She is a listed individual contributor in the final report of President Obama's task force on 21st century policing. Now, recently, Faye was selected as one of 100 people nationally to come to the White House and work and assist in the implementation of the task force recommendations. Wow. Here's a person that sat at the table at the White House on President Obama's task force for the 21st century policing. We know we've got a lot of problems in the community relationships between the police department and the African American community. So President Obama stepped in as commander-in-chief and commanded that we do something about it. And here's someone who will help talk about that. Anyway, who is Faye Coffield? She is a human rights activist based in the metro Atlanta area and Georgia, as I said. She is the owner and operator of Faye Coffield Investigation, so she knows how to be on the inside and the outside. This is also a retired City of Atlanta police sergeant. You see, in 1990, she became the first black woman to address a fringe committee meeting of the Police Federation of England and Wales, and at his Scarborough, England conference. In 2004, she was awarded the National Roxanne Gregory Advocacy Award for her work on criminal justice matters. In 2010, Faye was among 140 people selected to attend a New York City dinner with the then Iranian President Mohammad Ahmadinejad. In 2011, she was selected to participate in a conference on the plight of the African American migrant and their possible repatriation in Tripoli, Libya, while it was under the leadership, yes, of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. For almost 10 years, she was the chairwoman of the Criminal Justice Committee of the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. She is a listed individual contributor in the final report of President Obama's task force on 21st century policing. Recently, as I indicated, Faye was selected as one of 100 people nationally to come to the White House and work and assist in the implementation of the task force recommendation. Faye has been active in civil rights and political empowerment individually since 1968. Wow, what a resume, what a bio. Faye Coffield, are you there, Faye? Hello? Okay, well, Mel, let me give you her number. Come on out here and get her number so we can get her on the line and get to talk to her. But before she gets on the line, because she's a very busy person, we'll deal with that and talk to you more about what the president's initiative was about. I mean, this is an outline, folks, that is incredible, amazing what this country is about to engage in and trying its best to help fix what is really a major problem with our system, our policing system, and someone who knows how to was there at the table with the president. I mean, that's important to note that we have somebody who sat at the table, because as you know, the stuff that's going on in Texas, that young man who killed that police officer. Wow. I don't condone violence. I don't condone anybody shooting anybody. But certainly, one of the things that is critical for us to understand and realize is that the backwash, the comments. I mean, I heard a woman who represented the police force condemning hashtag Black Lives Matters as the cause and culprit. And I'm like, wait a minute. How did that happen to be the cause of that young man killing that police officer when Black Lives Matter is a non-violent peace movement? And yet, what we are hearing from Fox and many other situations is that they're not supporting any of our movements, but they're becoming extremely excited. I guess white folks can't take the heat when it comes to their kitchen. But anyway, here's something to remember and reflect on. The introduction, I'm going to give you an introduction to the President's 21st Century Policing Task Force. You see, given the urgency of these issues, the President gave the task force an initial 90 days to identify best practices and offer recommendations on how policing practices can promote effective crime reduction while building public trust. That's what he's supposed to do. He's the commander-in-chief. And in this short period, the task force conducted 7 public listening sessions across the country and received testimony and recommendations from a wide range of community and faith leaders, law enforcement officers, academics, and others to ensure these recommendations would be informed by a diverse range of voices. Now, such a remarkable achievement could not have been accomplished without the tremendous assistance provided by the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, the acronym for COPS office, led by Director Ronald L. Davis, who also served as the executive director of the task force. Now, trust between law enforcement agencies and the people they protect and serve is essential in a democracy. Now, folks, this is what's important. We got to have, if we don't trust the police department who is there to protect and serve, then who can we trust to met out justice in this country? It is key to the stability of our communities, the integrity of our criminal justice system, and the safe and effective delivery of policing services. In light of the recent events that have exposed rifts in the relationships between local police and the communities they protect and serve, on December 18, 2014, President Barack Obama signed an executive order establishing the task force on 21st century policing. Now, in establishing the task force, the president spoke of the distrust that exists between too many police departments and too many communities. The sense that in a country where our basic principle is equality under the law, too many individuals, particularly young people of color, do not feel as if they are being treated fairly. Well, when any part of the American family, and this is a quote from the president, when any part of the American family does not feel like it's being treated fairly, that's a problem for all of us. That's what the president said. It's not just a problem for some. It's not just a problem for a particular community or a particular demographic. It means that we are not as strong as a country as we can be. And when applied to the criminal justice system, it means we're not as effective in fighting crime as we could be. Our president said that. Taking lead, that's what a commander-in-chief is supposed to do. The mission of the task force was to examine how to foster strong, collaborative relationships between local law enforcement and the communities they protect, and to make recommendations to the president on how policing practices can promote effective crime reduction while building public trust. Now, the president selected members of the task force based on their ability to contribute to its mission because of their relevant perspective, experience, or subject matter expertise in policing, law enforcement, and community relations, civil rights, and civil liberties. Now, to fulfill this mission, the task force convened 7 listening sessions to hear testimony, including recommendations for action from government officials, law enforcement officials, academic experts, technical advisors, leaders from established non-governmental organizations, including grassroots movements, and any other members of the public who wished to comment. The listening sessions were held in Washington, D.C. on January the 13th, Cincinnati, Ohio, January the 30th through the 31st, Phoenix, Arizona, February 13th through the 14th, and again in Washington, D.C., February 23rd through the 24th. Other forms of outreach included a number of White House listening sessions to engage other constituencies, such as people with disabilities and the LGBTQ community, and members of the armed forces, as well as a careful study of scholarly articles, research reports, and written contributions from informed experts in various fields relevant to the task force mission. Wow. So that was the charge from the president to this 21st century task force on policing. Wow. I mean that's a pretty big agenda. And they sat down and mapped it out. When we come back, while we're still trying to get Faye Coffield on the line, and believe me, if she doesn't make it, I got enough material to work on this. My friends, you know this is a hot button topic all across the country. And when we come back, I want you to listen to what Bryant Gumbel even had to say. We'll be right back on the BCS Experience. So don't go away. We're here, right on the GoPro Radio Network. We'll be right back.
You're listening to content
Tylon,
developed
how are
by
you, sir?
the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
Why are you paying for radio? Are you serious? GoPro Radio offers content for free. Go to www.goproradio.com and listen to original, irreverent, and exceptional talk shows. It's free. Go to www.goproradio.com now. It's that simple and free. www.goproradio.com. Listen to the voices in your head. Oh, and did I mention it's free?
We are an amazing people. Rooted in Africa, the cradle of human civilization. Descendant of the awesome men and women who made a way out of no way. People steeped in the values of truth, justice, respect, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. But 400 years of enslavement, Jim Crow, and racism, fueled by the lie of black inferiority, have taken their toll. The result? Too much pain, too much hurt, too much loss. We owe our ancestors, ourselves, and our children so much more than this. Join the movement for emotional emancipation, healing, and wellness for Black people. Go to communityhealingnet.org and take the pledge to defy the lie and embrace the truth. That's communityhealingnet.org. Our children and our ancestors are waiting.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience. I'm Byron C. Saunders, your host with the most. We're still waiting for my featured call-in guest, Faye Coffield, former retired police sergeant from Atlanta, Georgia. She's probably tied up in doing some investigation, as she does, and has a private investigation company. So she's out there on the beat. I probably tracking down some nefarious individual. Let's hope she's okay. She did sit on the panel for the President Obama's 21st Century Task Force on Policing. So she's a person who sat at the table, the big table, as a representative of formerly of the police department, and also representing a civic community. So we do want to hear from her, as she could give us some illumination. But I want you to take a listen to this, because I've prepared a show that goes deep, folks. I mean, I can talk about this with or without Ms. Faye Coffield, because there are some issues that are happening in our country right now that are on the precipice of some dangerous, very dangerous happenings. But I want you to take a listen to Bryant Gumbel when he was on the Charlie Rose show. Roll that tape for me, Mel, because it's only a short little tape, but he talks about racial profiling as he and his son experienced it. Take a listen to this.
My son has been arrested for walking while black. So I get it.
A lot of sons have been arrested.
Yeah, I get it. It doesn't make me, you can't buy your way out of this one. You can't educate your way out of it.
It's just happening too much, or at least we know about it now.
It's always happened. We see more evidence of it. And too often people still are inclined to say, well, if he'd had a different attitude, well, if he hadn't been driving, well, if he hadn't been this, if he hadn't been that, almost as if the victim is partially to blame. In the case of Garner, well, he shouldn't have resisted. In the case of Brown, well, where was he? In the case of Trayvon, well, he had a hood on, and in the case of whoever, in case of Sandra Bland, well, her attitude was better. It's like, no, stop. This has nothing to do with the victims. This has everything to do with the culture of demeaning a person of color. And there is no justification for a society where my son has a far greater chance of being stopped, held, killed than your son, simply because he's black.
Wow. See, it doesn't matter who you are, what city you're in, or your status in this country. Because if you're black, you're being profiled. Bryant Gumbel, very well recognized. So I can imagine him walking down the street and ultimately police department either playing with him or intentionally trying to provoke him. We got folks out here, folks, that are playing this game of chicken with each other. And unfortunately, once again, that incident down there in Texas where that police officer was shot 15 times. Now, I don't condone it, but you know something? There are death squads out here, folks, who have had it in the African American community. They have had it. And they're arming themselves. And they're like, you know what? It takes nothing to walk up on somebody and unload a weapon. He did it. He didn't run away. He's claiming he did it. He's got a reason, I'm sure, but he's had it, and unfortunately, my folks who are listening to the BCS Experience, I hate to be the prognosticator of some bad news, but you know what? I don't think it's just the last one that's going to happen like that. That's what the police are doing to us. They just walk up on us. That's what happened to the brother who got choked out there in Long Island, Staten Island rather, Mr. Garner. They walked up on him, killed him in broad daylight with a camera on. So what's the difference between that death squad and the death squad of this young man? There is no difference. Murder is still murder. Death is final. It isn't a game. It's not a PlayStation game. It's not a game that you sit down and play it when you go home at night. But one thing make for certain is for sure. We better stop and reconnoiter and realize that if we're not sitting down and talking to each other and trying to work this out, we are headed for Armageddon, and that is a for certain. No matter how good you are, it's not going to stop. You got a nut down there in Texas challenging hashtag Black Lives Matter, saying, "Come on, I got a shotgun for you. I got a weapon that will." Ultimately, well, hold on. I got Faye on the line here. Let's see if we can get her. Hello, Faye. How you doing?
Hey, Byron. I was just trying to figure out, do you call me or do I call you?
You got to call us, 347. I got you on the line. Call 347-884-9839.
Hold on. Let me say it one more time, very slow.
347-884-9839.
9839.
That's right. My line engineer is waiting for you, but I got you.
884-983. Let me have that last number.
347-884-9839.
9839.
That's right.
You call right
Come
now?
on. We're waiting on you.
Okay. I thought you said 6.
No, it's 5 to 6. It's what all my memos to you, but come on. We got you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so Faye will be joining us shortly. A little bit of miscommunication, but that happens sometimes. It's the English language, I think. But, I ain't fretting about anything because we got stuff to talk about. And like I said, this that's going on across the country right now, it's got to stop. And so let's hope that the president's recommendations, and that's what we're going to talk about when we get Faye on. She's calling in right now. We're going to have a chance to ask her while she sat at the table to talk about the task force, the 21st Century Task Force. We got about 40 minutes left, but we can still get this in. Anyway, you're listening to the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. We're right here, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. Tylon Usavier of Washington is a producer. And while we're still waiting, I can plug a little bit of PR for GoPro Radio. Come on now. If you don't have Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio, check that out. You see that right there? This is what you need to have in your library because black radio, is not going away. It's actually being saved. And we're the ones who are saving it right here at the GoPro Radio Network. Iron Metropolis Images. Tylon is a brilliant producer. And we got several shows that are on the network. But I lead off on Wednesday. I'm the flagship of the shows on Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time, people, okay? Just in case y'all are listening in South Africa, because we've had a call. We've had folks all across the world and around the globe who've checked in with us. All right, is Faye on the line yet, Mel? Okay, she's pulling over off the side of the road there. So I told you, she's in private investigator. Okay, any event, here's some of the issues that have to be handled, and Faye is going to talk to us about some of this because she sat at the table with the president's task force. Okay, hello, Faye, are you there?
Hey, I'm here, but, I kind of got to correct you. I didn't sit at the table with the task force exactly like the task force. This was a special meeting where we were all 100 of us were brought to Washington, and we met with the task force.
Okay, well, that's good. You still at the table? All right. Now,
you know,
Faye, Let's jump right into this, because I've already prepped them. I told them who you are. You're a private investigator. You're a former sergeant in the Atlanta Police Department, and you're out there pounding the beat, doing great work as a civic and a professional leader. All right, let's talk about the task force initiative, building trust and legitimacy. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, the one thing that's a problem, and I have to speak from the black perspective. Okay?
Absolutely.
In the black community, is that there is a lack of faith in the police from a certain segment of the black community.
Right.
And that part of the community needs to be engaged with the police in order to provide a safe environment.
Okay.
If you're following what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
We have, in Atlanta, I'm actually in DeKalb County, we're starting to see a lot of violence, I mean, hardcore violence.
Yes.
And it's not being discussed. We had a situation last night where we had two officers that were, we had two people that were shot. And it turned out that they were shot by one of their friends who was shooting at another car that had an AR, one of these AR-47s.
Right.
He ended up shooting his two friends and killed both of them.
Wow.
In the meantime, we had one of the kids' fathers, who wasn't shot but was there, was an Atlanta police officer, and he came up to the scene and he became involved in a fight with the DeKalb County police officers, and he ended up getting locked up. Now, instead of the story being about the two kids that were killed, it's now about the police.
And
So
policing police. My goodness.
Well, yeah, and so we have to have an open dialogue. Every other community almost, except for ethnic communities, white communities have people that liaison with the police department in their neighborhood.
Right.
And we need to have that same thing, whether you're in a high-end section of the black community or whether you're in public housing. You have to have a voice that goes and advocates for you.
All right. Now, there were 7 principles for which this task force outlined. That was the first one, building trust and legitimacy. The second one, policy and oversight. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay. That was where I wrote my paper.
Yes.
Okay. That was the area that I addressed. And as you know, I had a petition because what I wanted to see was I wanted to see these police shootings that are questionable, the Freddie Grays and Eric Garners and all of these, not handled by the local grand jury and the local DA, but to be given to a federal regional task force that's made up of civilian and police personnel and prosecutors, and they handle all of it from the investigation to taking it into court and prosecuting.
Right.
And this, in a way, is fair to a community because you don't have the bias that exists between district attorneys, police officers, even your state police, and in some cases your federal agencies when it comes to policing one another. You know, a lot of people don't understand that, you know, they always say, well, we want this agency to investigate it, we want the FBI. But if you've ever been in policing, you know that the FBI has a task force in most police departments.
Yes.
So does DEA.
Yes.
So we have to have a totally independent voice there.
Okay.
They can look at these things and make them right. We also have to look at how officers are disciplined by internal affairs.
All right.
My position was that internal affairs must be a 50-50 division, which means that 50% of the people are police and 50% are trained civilian personnel.
All right, Faye, hold that thought. Hold that thought right there. I got to take a break here. When we come back, because this is your piece of the expertise, I want to hear a little bit more about this, about policy and oversight. We're talking to Faye Coffield. You're listening to the BCS Experience right here on GoPro Radio Network. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these very important words.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
What if you can have an entire team of skilled professionals to help your business grow? Admin, accounts, marketing, and more, but only pay for the exact amount of support you need at virtually the same cost you'd pay for one full-time employee. With Virtual Professions, you can. One contact, one number gets you a team of virtual professionals for exactly what your business needs. It's 1-888-315-VPRO. That's 1-888-315-8776. Or online at www.virtualprofessions.net. Virtual Professions Incorporated, because you mean business.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience. I got my good friend in Atlanta, Georgia. She's Faye Coffield, former sergeant in the Atlanta Police Department, now living in DeKalb County, who assisted. She was one of 100 people who were invited to participate in the President Obama's 21st Century Task Force on Policing. And Faye, you were breaking down some of your expertise on this policy and oversight process. Continue. Let us know, how do we now facilitate and implement what you recommended? Because this is getting critical out here right now, Faye.
Well, one of the things, Byron, what I plan to do within the next maybe 2 or 3 days is, I know you have a large listening audience.
Yes.
And I need a large Facebook audience. I need 100,000 signatures to get the president to look at my proposal. I mean, it's already there.
Yes.
But mine was just something that I submitted that they reviewed.
Right.
But in order for it to get serious consideration by the White House, bypassing everything else, I need 100,000 signatures.
Okay.
On those, it's we the people. So I will be posting it. But also, the state of Illinois, from what I've been told and read a couple of days ago, has already implemented all of the task force recommendations and made them the standard for police procedures and police training within the Illinois system.
Yes.
So in order to be post-certified, as we call it, you're going to have to be able to qualify under these recommendations. And there's a lot in the task force, and if I can, I would encourage your readers to just go on and just Google the final report of the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing.
It's very detailed.
And they would be kind of shocked.
Oh, yeah. It's very
they
detailed.
They would be kind of shocked. It is very detailed, because a lot of it, and this president is the first president in my lifetime that has ordered an examination exclusively of police procedures. People don't understand that usually we're looking at riots, we're looking at things like that. But he has ordered that they look at policing. So, and come up with ways of resolving it.
I understand, Faye. I understand that as of last night, yesterday, it was posted in the newspaper, in New York Times, that the city of Baltimore has implemented the no racial profiling part of this task force recommendations. It's already been instituted within the police department. This was as of yesterday. So it's taking place. It is happening, even though you don't hear it on Fox News or CNN or NBC, MSNBC, but it is happening. So we have to salute your efforts.
And you're not going to hear about this type of thing because it's something good and something positive that's coming out of our community and coming out from the president. One of the recommendations you were talking about, some of the things about policy, the task force recommendation, the very first one, which is 2.1,
Yes.
says that there should be a collaboration between the community and the police department to establish what the rules are.
That's right.
And that's not complicated. You know, it's not as complicated as it seems.
Right.
You know, we also have to look at, you know, getting more, as they say in here, getting more external prosecutors. You know, people that aren't connected. And one of the things my recommendation for the independent task force was that just because something happens in New York doesn't mean that the investigators that handle it will come from New York. You might have investigators that would come from California that have absolutely no ties to the New York Police Department.
That's
because
interesting.
policing is policing.
Yes.
A lot of people don't understand that. I've seen policing pretty much throughout the world, and all of it is the same.
Well, tell me, Faye, number 3 on the 7-point list is technology and social media. How does that impact and play into the policy and the 21st century policing task force? What is it about technology and social media that we should be looking forward to?
Well, first of all, you should be looking forward to the ability to interact with your police department.
Okay.
You know, to be able to go online and get a report. If you need a report, you should be able to, everybody has a debit card or they have some kind of prepaid card. You should be able to go online, pay that money, get your report. You should also be able to go on there, and some departments you can file complaints against officers and or against certain services that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
But you also should be able to have information about what's going on in your community.
Okay.
And what's happening. And you should also be able to learn what the police department is, not just crime statistics, but what the police department is doing in your community. A lot of times, there are certain programs, certain procedures that are available that we don't know anything about. But the point that I really wanted to talk about was the 3.60,
mm-hmm.
which is the use of less lethal technology.
Yes.
And one of the things people talk about tasers.
Yeah.
And tasers are good to a certain degree, but first of all, the taser has to be able to stick. And I know that sounds cruel. If the taser cannot stick in you, it does no good. And so it just, we need to look at some departments throughout the world use bean bags. They use all kind of other things that will stop a person but will not kill them.
The use of lethal weaponry, and then let's tackle that for just a brief moment. The use of lethal weaponry is still a 19th century technology. Faye, we're in the 21st century. We got laser technology.
Absolutely.
We got stun guns. I understand the Army has weaponry that can shut you down by neurological weaponry. So why are we still wedded?
A lot of people think that's a joke, but go ahead, it's not.
Why are we still wedded to 19th century technology using Colt 45s and, that's like Wild Wild West stuff.
Well, you want to know the truth.
Yeah.
The truth of it is that it all involves money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to give you an example, you're probably having this discussion about police body cameras.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Well, one of the things about police body cameras is they are expensive because they are expensive to maintain the storage on the information. But, the fact of the matter is, if you think of a body camera as you think of music, if you remember, we were at one point, the first thing was the cassette. What was the reel-to-reel?
Reel-to-reel,
We went from the
8-track.
reel-to-reel within a few years to the cassette.
Right.
So the reel-to-reel, you had to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Then we went to compact disc.
Yes.
And now, according to my son, compact discs are no longer relevant. Nobody has those. They have this download. So that's the same thing with policing.
Mm-hmm.
And, because you have a population of policing that has to be trained, they're going to stick with what's simple and basic, and that is a firearm, aspartame, and that's surprising because that's a new invention.
Yes.
That's that collapsible metal baton.
Yes.
And then you have the OC spray, you have the taser.
Yes.
But that's about it for the basic on-the-street officer.
Okay.
You-
Well,
So,
I'm
you
going to
know,
ask a question, Faye. I got a question. I got to ask you this because this is a deep one that's just hitting all across the country right now. You're a civic leader. You're a former police person. That officer who was killed in Texas, that gentleman unloaded 15 shots in that and basically executed him. Okay. Now, we are hearing a backwash about hashtag Black Lives Matter, which you and I know is a peaceful movement. But and then you got a nut who comes on social media, white man, threatening, come on, I got the shotgun, I got weapons waiting for you. They're actually trying to initiate and engage a race war in this country. We're on the precipice of some very dangerous confrontation. How do we diffuse this?
We are on the cusp of looking at a very serious problem that may have deadly outcomes
Yes.
on both sides.
Yes.
And, the scary thing about it is that a lot of officers, and I always used to train officers to say this, a lot of officers, people walk by you all the time. They walk past you, they walk in front of you. You can't always be unsnapping your weapon because somebody comes past you.
Right.
In this case, most people don't even believe that the officer, the deputy in Texas, actually knew that the guy was coming at him to shoot him because it all happened so fast.
It's a death squad.
But we also have to look at the mental health crisis in this country.
Absolutely.
This man had already been deemed as being violent,
Yes.
and he'd already been deemed as being mentally incompetent to stand trial. So and he had access to a firearm.
Yes, he did.
And, and so he, we don't know what triggered him. It could have been, like somebody said, when they were marching through, because Black Lives Matter has a lot of splinter groups.
Right.
And people just throw up a banner, say Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And they walk. But here's my thing. He could have been, somebody said something on Facebook, somebody said something like that remark they made about the pigs in a blanket.
Yes.
Anything could have triggered him. He could have been triggered just when he saw the deputy. That could have been the triggering effect because the gun we know was in the vehicle.
Right.
Now, do we know if he went around looking for a deputy to shoot? I doubt it.
We doubt it.
But,
Well, hold that thought,
we
Faye.
do
Hold
have
that
to
thought.
address it.
Hold that thought, because when we come back, the next factor that I really want to get into is this pipeline from public schools to the prison industrial complex. We got a serious problem in our community, and I know you have something to recommend for that. So, folks, don't go away. When we come back, I'm talking to Faye Coffield. She's giving us some pertinent information on the 21st Century Task Force of Policing that the President has made as an initiative. You're listening to the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. We'll be right back after these very important words.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
Why are you paying for radio? Are you serious? GoPro Radio offers content for free. Go to www.goproradio.com and listen to original, irreverent, and exceptional talk shows. It's free. Go to www.goproradio.com now. It's that simple and free. www.goproradio.com. Listen to the voices in your head.
What if you can have an entire team of skilled professionals to help your business grow? Admin, accounts, marketing, and more, but only pay for the exact amount of support you need at virtually the same cost you'd pay for one full-time employee. With Virtual Professions, you can. One contact, one number gets you a team of virtual professionals for exactly what your business needs. It's 1-888 1-888-315-VPRO. That's 1-888-315-8776. Or online at www.virtualprofessions.net. Virtual Professions Incorporated, because you mean business.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience. We're live. You want to call in, you can, but we're listening to some amazing information. The number to call in is 347-884-9839. My guest, my featured call-in guest, Faye Coffield, is in Metro Atlanta, Georgia. She's in DeKalb County, in Decatur, actually. She's a human rights activist. She's the owner-operator of Faye Coffield Investigations. That's a private investigation security agency. She is formerly a retired Atlanta police sergeant, and she was a participant in the 21st Century Task Force. Faye, I want you to listen to this next piece that we have. It's called Our Lives Matter. It's a public service announcement made by a good friend of mine's daughter, Carrie Davis, and it's very new. It's brand new. But take a listen to this, and we'll talk about pipeline of schools to prisons in the country. Roll that tape.
Why? Why?
Why are you following me?
Why my hoodie make me look suspicious?
Why does my music make me dangerous?
Why are people that are supposed to protect me attacking me?
Why are you afraid of me? Why do you think I'm dangerous?
Why do I afraid of people who are supposed to protect me?
Why can't I make a peace sign without you labeling the gang sign?
Why does standing your ground only work when I'm on the ground?
Why do you show this photo over this one?
Why do you only stop and frisk me?
Why do you have low expectations for me?
Why can't I run down the street without causing alarms?
Why do you think I'm a thug?
Why do you assume I'm armed?
Why can I breathe?
Why is my mom scared every time I leave the house?
Why are you targeting me?
Why am I a target?
Why?
Why? I know why.
And it has to stop. It must stop.
Because I have dreams.
Because I can change the world.
Because I will make a difference.
Because I have a feeling.
Because I am strong.
Because I'm talented.
I have a voice.
I can find a cure.
I have goals.
I can lead the country.
I am determined.
I have a future.
Because I'm a scholar.
I am powerful.
I'm someone's friend. I'm someone's brother.
I'm someone's son.
Someone loves me.
And because my life matters too.
My life matters.
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 All lives matter.
And so did theirs.
Wow. My goodness. Faye, 55% of all black suspensions from U.S. public schools occurred in 13 southern states. 55% of all black suspensions from U.S. public schools occurred in 13 southern states. Now, you're in Georgia. Now, I've sat on the task force that the United Way had several years ago about reading scores in Georgia. Georgia was originally founded as a penal colony. Today, the state of Georgia and its most prosperous industry, either second or third, making most of the money in the state, is the prison industrial complex.
Absolutely.
37% of the black students are enrolled in the state of Georgia, yet 67% of the students are suspended. And we know they're building prisons, spaces for young men, because 1 in 3, by the time they're 25, are on their way to the prison industrial complex. We got a crisis, Faye. How do we address this?
So we have more than a crisis. I started off in probation in about 74, 75. And back then it was controlled by the state, by the county. And you had some state probation or probationers, and you had some federal probationers. but we had less probationers. And we also had opportunity for people to be incarcerated. We used to call it correctional institution.
Right.
We had people incarcerated, and they could learn, they could take courses, they could get college degrees. We had some people came out of prison with masters working on PhDs. I know a guy came out, I think he was like 2 classes short of his PhD because he was in a program, specialized program. All of that has ended. And what people don't understand is that we create crime in order to have people making money. I will never forget a woman came to me about 10 years ago when I was on the Criminal Justice Committee and told us she was about to have her phone shut off because she owed $800 in phone bills. And we asked her, how do you owe $800 in a phone bill? And she told us, well, her grandson was incarcerated. He was a young man, and he was calling her, and she was praying with him.
Right.
And she didn't understand that it was $15 for each one of those times that he called her.
Wow.
And the prison system makes money.
Yes, it
and
does.
if you don't think it makes money, then there would not be a private prison system. We must never forget, and you can Google this, that we just had a judge, I think he was in Pennsylvania, that was sentenced to, I think it's
25 years.
Because he was steering juveniles to a prison that he had. Now, people say, well, how do we prevent this? First of all, you get with your legislative elected officials from the state level, the federal level, and you tell them you want, first of all, for it to be illegal for the school system to share with the prison industrial complex, Department of Corrections, or anybody the rate of children that fail in the 3rd to the 5th grade unless it is the Department of Education. They have the right to know. Then you demand that these private prisons, that they cease to exist, because it is the job of the state to incarcerate and to correct behavior that's deemed, criminal.
Right.
Now, I was at Georgia State when they first started talking about this private prison it must have been 95 or something. And we said then that if you allow the creation of a private prison, you will see crime skyrocket. Look at it this way. Now you have to pay, if you're in prison and you come out on parole, you have to pay for that ankle monitor. That's so much a day. You have a probationary fine. We just had a major article down here in the Journal Constitution on people who were being sent back to prison not because they had committed another crime, but because they couldn't pay their probationary fees. All of this is controlled by private companies
That's right.
that are traded on Wall Street.
Wow.
Things that you and I did in high school or in elementary school that was not considered a crime is now a crime. Right. You get in a fight at school now, you and your little friend get to fighting. They take both of you and lock you up on assault charges instead of sending you home. We have to be about the fact of protecting our youth, not just from violence, but from the predatory criminal justice system. And Michelle Alexander got it right when she said it's the new Jim Crow.
It is.
It's the new means
slavery.
Of incarcerating masses of people. And, people get in the system, and now you can't live in certain areas. Even if you're, just a regular criminal, you cannot find a job. You cannot be hired for certain jobs. You can't get student loans. And the main thing we need to look at, and this is what bothers me the most, because I had worked on the Marcus Dixon case down here, where this 17-year-old honor student was charged with statutory rape for having consensual sex with
I
a
recall.
15-year-old girl.
Yes.
And a lot of times these kids have to register as a sex offender when all they did was they're 17, the girl is 15, and somebody finds out about it, maybe a principal or something, and they report it, and now this child is labeled a sexual predator. I don't think so. I think it's just two normal kids. I'm not saying I agree with it, with kids having, sex and all of this at that age. But it's not a crime that should result in them being labeled a sex offender for the rest of their lives.
All right, Faye, I got one more thing I got to ask you because we got to wrap this up. This is a big one. The President's Task Force in Ferguson determined that the Ferguson Police Department and its governmental infrastructure were participating in a institutional shakedown of the African American community. Now, that's nothing new, because we can go back to 1967 when COINTELPRO was instituted, which was a FBI formatted process to destroy the civil rights movement. Faye, we got problems. We've got institutional, structural problems. And how do we break all of this down? Because this is a massive, massive and complex setup to break our spirits and our community.
You want to know how you break it down? Very simple.
Okay.
You organize.
Yes.
You organize. And the organization doesn't need a lot of people. You can organize in small groups of 12. You can organize in groups of 15. Just a small group. And each person in that group can liaison with another person in another group. And you all are going towards the same goal. Now, somebody may be on juvenile justice. Somebody might be on something else. But we have got to organize on it. And the one thing we have to do, and I always tell people this, you must know the rules of engagement. If you don't know the rules of engagement, then you're going to have a serious problem.
Well, I gotta wrap this up, Faye. I'm gonna have you come back on the show, because there's some statistics that are very alarming that I recently have discovered, and that is that 84% of white people killed every year are killed by other whites. What we are getting. Well, I know it, but I mean, we gotta keep saying it, because
60 seconds.
You see, let's be clear about the facts of crime in America. If you find the facts hard to believe that we are not, as African Americans, the ones who commit most of the crimes in America, then what we are realizing is that we are the victims of American propaganda machine. Faye, I gotta have you come back.
Absolutely.
I have got to have you come back and talk to more about this.
Well, you know what, Byron, I am down here, and if I'm not here, I am never anywhere where I cannot get a hookup on the internet. I'm sorry about the confusion about
That's
the
okay.
time.
It's okay.
But,
we got a lot in today.
I am very passionate about criminal justice.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't take it as a joke. I don't think it is a one issue thing.
10
it's not
seconds.
Michael Brown, it's not Eric Garner. It is a system.
There you go,
That
folks.
is how we have to look at it.
This has been the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. Come back
It's
next
6
week.
o'clock.
I'm out of here. Peace and love, always. All right, good show, guys.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.